Welcome, April the 9th, 2015, budget workshop. We're going to start it. Phyllis?
Thank you, Mayor. We're starting our budget process tonight, and we're going to start with our general fund, and we're going to start with the general fund revenues. And we're just going to go down through each line and kind of give you an explanation of how we come up with a number, or if there's any discussion on any of the items. The first line item that we're going to discuss is property taxes. And at this point, we're contemplating taking the property taxes down to 97.5 cents per 100 assessed value. We're looking at that. These numbers do represent 97.5 cents on property tax. If you'll look at how we're forecasting, we have previous year's information in here. We have the actuals from 11, 12, 13, and then we have current year's forecast, and then we have next year's budget. And we also have the previous year's budget. The way that I come up with this number is we have I think it's $800 million. It's $800,002 worth of property tax, property values. And if you take that times the assessed value of, I think it's 88,000, I mean 8 million, times 97.5 cents, you come up with approximately $7,566,000, and that's also taking into consideration approximately 3% for non-payment. So that $7.5 million represents 97.5 cents per 100 assessed value, minus the 3% for non-payment. The next lines down are our delinquent property taxes. There's no real good way to estimate those. We just kind of have to guess what we think that we'll collect on any delinquent property taxes. For the first year delinquent, we're estimating that we're going to collect about 25. For 2-year delinquent taxes, we're approximately 10. 3-year delinquent taxes, approximately 3,000. 4-year, 1,500. 5-year, 600, and then going on down to anything past 8 years is about $100 per year that we are estimating we'll collect. Interest and penalties and court costs associated with taxes, we're estimating about $30,000. Payment in lieu of utilities, we've estimated that to be $160,000. Payment in lieu of taxes, TVA, approximately $435,000. Local sales tax, we're estimating about $4.9 million. We're running about $4.8 million this year. We're anticipating that to go up just slightly for next year. Wholesale alcoholic beverage tax, we're anticipating about $3,000 for that revenue. Wholesale beer tax, approximately $410,000. And if you look at the prior year's trends, you'll see that I'm trying to stay in line with what we've collected in prior years and adjusting accordingly. Wholesale liquor tax, we estimate $150,000. Civil penalties for beer permits, approximately $2,000. Business tax, $630,000. Cable and TV franchise tax, starting with Comcast, about $250,000. AT&T franchise tax, $10,000. Tennessee telephone, approximately $52,000. And hotel motel tax, approximately $55,000. Our next section is our permit fees. Based on trends and estimates, we're estimating that beer license application fees around $2,000, liquor license application fees around $750, privilege tax liquor license for restaurants $800, building permits about $85,000, plumbing permits $10,000, mechanical permits $3,500, plans and review fees $8,000, inspection fees $200, and other permits about $15,000. In our state revenues, that will start with our state sales tax collections. We are estimating about approximately $2.3.5 million. The state income tax, which is the hall tax, approximately $45,000. The state beer tax, $14,000. State alcoholic beverage tax, $1,500. State gasoline tax, $65,000. and the State Street contract maintenance from TDOT of approximately $4,220. That fee is the money that we collect from them for keeping the median cut on Murfreesboro Road, and also for the litter pickup on Murfreesboro Road. Our next section is recreation fees. We anticipate receiving the TML grant again, which is around $2,000. We are anticipating collecting about $4,000 for fees and commissions. For the league fees, we've estimated about $60,000. For recreation fees, about $50,000. That's for building rentals, etc. And then the concession stands, we're estimating about $50,000. In our library fees, we're anticipating collecting about $8,000 in fines and penalties, $1,000 in donations and gifts, $9,000 in copies, $8,000 in fax copies, approximately $1,000 from lost books, about $200 from lost cards, and about $500 for the sale of used books. And then in our children's revenue program, we're anticipating receiving about $600. For court fines, next section down, we're anticipating about $220,000 for city court fines and cost. For the Rutherford County fines, we're anticipating about $35,000. From the state, about $400. Impound fees, about $1,000. DUI impound fees, about $2,000. Sex offender registry fees, about $1,500. And in our other revenues, miscellaneous type revenues, we're estimating about $3,000 in interest earnings, $1,500 in the sale of general items, $4,000 in the sale of fixed assets, about $1,500 in police supplies, about $4,000 in police assets, and about $500 in highway and street supplies. And then generally we get contributions for Old Timers Festival. We're anticipating about $15,000. In the pageant, about $1,500, and then $3,000 for other financial sources. And then we estimate collecting about $500 for our recycling program. That is a total of $17,787,570. Anybody have any questions on the revenues before we go any further? We'll come back to the total expenditures and the surplus and talk about that after we get through the revenues, but you can see those numbers as they are right now. And we'll come back and talk about those after we go through the general fund expenses. And please feel free to stop me at any time you have questions. Our first department that we'll discuss on the general fund is our legislative department. We were instructed by the mayor to try to keep expenses as close to the previous year as possible, and basically that's what we have done throughout this whole budget. We did include a 3% wage increase for employees. And of course with that, you know, you have your benefits that go up also. On the legislative board, if you compare, you know, prior year budget to current year budget, you'll see that there's very little change there. Unless you have a question about a specific line item, we'll go on down to the next department because it's pretty cut and dry. When we get to the departments that may have some questions, we'll stop at that. Judicial, we do not give an increase in the judicial department as far as wages. That is our judge and our city attorney, and we don't generally increase those wages any from year to year. City court, again, we only increase this department for the wages and benefits. We did reduce, no, I'm sorry, we don't have a, you notice there the previous year we had a bonus pay. Generally what that is we have a wage scale step system, and when we have employees that are maxed out, which is step 9, one year they'll receive a lump sum, and then the next year we add a step and drop a step. So this is the year that we add a step and drop a step, so we won't be paying out any bonus pays this year. So that budget was reduced by $1,300 due to that, but it just increases the actual wage line, the hourly wage line. Longevity pay, you know, it goes up $50 a year, so you'll see that incremental increase there. The only thing I see in this department, we did add $500 for small items of equipment. That's to cover any additional equipment needs that they may have. That total budget increased very little. Well, actually it went down because we took out that bonus. And the next department is city administrator. Again, we only increased the wages and benefits. We did take out small items of equipment out of this department. And you'll see that the wage allocation, the other wages, which is line 129, you'll see that is a credit to that department. You'll see that throughout several departments in the general fund, and what happens there is for the departments like IT and city administrator and finance and maybe a couple other departments, we allocate those wages to other funds like the stormwater fund and the water and sewer fund, because it's not fair to charge the general fund for those departments' complete wages and benefits, because they do assist other funds besides just the general fund. So we allocate that cost. It'll be a credit to the general fund, and then you'll see it as a debit to the stormwater and water sewer fund when we get to those. We don't budget for elections much anymore unless we have a special one, and we haven't had one of those in a long time, so we skip right past that. City recorder, you'll see there again only the wage and benefit incremental increase to that whole department. Down to the tax department, this one you do see a big difference between the prior year and current in upcoming 15-16 budget year. This is due to the taking out the reappraisal for property taxes. That is only done every 5 years, and we get charged that by the county. So that's approximately about $160,000 that we did not have to rebudget this year. That will not come up again for another 4 more years. Other than that, that's pretty much the only changes we made in that department. In the finance department, just basic incremental increases due to wages and benefits, again there. We did take out the small items of equipment because that was in there last year for a laserfish scanner, and we have purchased enough scanners in the finance department that everyone pretty much has one at their desk for scanning. So that was taken out. Human resources, you'll see a pretty good jump here, and we'll go down through there. Of course, you've got your wages and benefits incremental increase. You'll see that the line item for other professional services went up about, well, it went up about $150,000 over prior year. We actually took that down to $55,000, but then we also increased it for potential liability lawsuits to cover some of those expenses, if those should happen, which we're hoping that they won't happen. But we did put some funds there just in case we incur some expenses. That was the big increase for that department. Engineering, there was no changes here other than, again, incremental wage and benefit increase. IT, we did, you'll see there was a little bit of a reduction in that department. We did take out their capital from last year, which is computer equipment. We did not have to budget for that. We did have an increase in the health insurance line item, which is a pretty substantial increase there. Whenever we have employees that change coverage, or we have to add coverage to an employee, then you'll see that type of an increase there, and it stands out pretty good. Planning, there was no changes to planning other than the incremental wage and benefit increase. Pretty much stayed the same. Codes and administration, that one stayed the same, almost to the dollar, even with adding in the wage and incremental increase. You'll see that one stayed about the same. The main reason for that is we did have one employee that left, and we replaced that employee, and there's always a wage difference there that reflects in that. City Hall. We had a capital, well, not a capital, we had some other professional services in here last year of approximately $50,000 or $51,000 that we were able to take out this year. That was for the space needs assessment consultants. We did not have to rebudget for that, so that allowed that budget to come down. This is, we also charge insurance and other related expenses here, your property and liability type insurance and your vehicle and things like that. Census, we do have a department called the Census Department. We do not anticipate doing a special census this year. Therefore, there's no budget allocated for that. Getting down to the police department, Chief Walker is here. We basically pretty much kept everything the same. We did take out some of the any capital that was in the budget from last year, and we did take out a grant expense from the Rutherford County of that amount was $12,000. That grant is no longer available, and we were lucky to obtain that grant for several years in a row, but they've discontinued that, and we do not get that anymore. So even with the incremental increases for wages and benefits and taking out those two expenses, we were still able to maintain pretty close to the same budget as previous year. Fire department, we have our fire department here. We had some line item shift changes in this department, and of course this budget is, if you'll notice, it's way down over prior year. That's mainly due to that $2 million payment that we made to finish the paying for the fire department. We no longer have to do that, so that did not reoccur. We took out any capital that they had put in, that we had put in for last year. And if you'll notice on the wage lines, we restructured how the fire department employees are paid, and everyone is actually a salaried employee, so you'll see that there's no need for the hourly rate anymore on that. Other than that, we did put in the $22,000 that we get reimbursed from the state. It's a once a year state reimbursement. And all the other line items are pretty much the same. We did take down the the repair and maintenance vehicles. We took that down from $250,000 to $50,000 because we are receiving several new units that we should not have that large maintenance cost anymore. We did take down clothing and uniforms. We had about 13 new employees last year. That will not reoccur this year, but we do need some budget money in there for replacement gear and any of our maybe volunteers. Where's Ricky at? I think, is that for our volunteers? All right, and then we do anticipate, Ricky has applied for a grant, and we do anticipate about $68,000. That's a city match on that grant, so we did include that in this budget. And if you, just for comparison, I do want to mention that if we had not purchased the fire department, that we would be looking at a budget of, I think it's approximately $3.5 million this year. But since we did purchase the fire department, our budget is only 3.1. The next department is emergency services. We have about $5,000 in training here. We did take out the Code Red program. We no longer will have that after the end of June. That contract does expire, and we do not wish to renew that because we are working with Rutherford County and using the same system that they're using. We do have the hazmat trailer and all of its related expenses in here for $30,000, and then we've also added back the rescue squad for approximately $25,000. So the total budget for emergency services, 68,000 as compared to last year's 65. Highways and streets, we took out about 105,000 out of capital that we did not need to rebudget from items from previous year. Other than that, we just had incremental increases for wages and benefits. Fleet, basically the same here. It just we did increase the wages, and we probably looks like we reduced something because we reduced tools, small items of equipment, from $12,000 to $5,000. Culture, which is our nonprofits, you have a sheet behind your this department in your packet that lists all of our nonprofits. I do want to go over that a little bit. You'll see that we're actually reducing our nonprofits this year. The only one that we're actually reducing is RTA. We had actually anticipated a huge increase in RTA, but that negotiation of their federal grant has been stayed for one more year, and when we received our documentation from them, they had actually taken our allocation to them down approximately to $17,000, I think, from what it, from the 25,000 that it was the prior year. There are two columns on your the far two right columns on your nonprofit list. One of them is a column of all nonprofit businesses or entities that have requested funds, and then on your far right is the entities that that we are looking at contributing toward. We can't contribute to everybody. We had a lot of requests this year, and I do have copies of all those in my office if you want to stop by and see any of the information. What we generally require from all of our nonprofits is a copy of their 501c3, a copy of their latest financial statement, and a copy of their request letter. So I have all that information at my desk if anyone wants to see it. And next department is Parks and Rec. We did take out some capital that was budgeted last year that we don't have to rebudget for. Other than that, we took down a couple of things. Very minor changes here, mostly the wages and benefits.
On the park, I think we put 17,000 less this year than last year.
Yeah.
What was the reason we come up with that, Phyllis?
Let's see. See if I can find it here. Well, we took out $24,000 because we purchased we had $24,000 in the budget last year that we didn't rebudget for this year. So that makes up the biggest part of that. And when you add back the wage increase and the benefits, that makes up the difference there. We did take down programs. We took that down a little bit, and we also took down, looks like the 5K run. Last year we budgeted $7,500, and this for 15-16 we're going to budget $6,000. In the programs, we budgeted $35,650 last year, and we took it down to $25,650. And the reason we're taking out the programs down is last year we had a big reduction in our water expense, and it looks like that has crept back up on us, so we just moved some funds around to accommodate for that. Our next department is the library department, and we pretty much kept it the same. We did add a little bit for the Comcast service that we're now paying for, and of course the incremental wage and benefit increase. Economic development, We kept it exactly the same as prior year. We still have the consultant fees for retail strategies. This makes up the biggest portion of that department. Public relations, pretty much kept everything the same here. We did take out the $5,000 for advertising, and then everything else was just the incremental wage increase. Now down to our debt service, that did go up about $200,000. And that was due to the issuance of the 2015 bond. So we took out the 200 out of the maintenance line item for the fire department and pretty much put it, it pretty much covered the increase in the debt service. Now down to our last section, that is operating transfers. This is where we transfer money to other funds as needed. We're transferring $220,000 to oh, I think I messed up on that. That should have stayed at 400, Bruce, because that was the TDOT. Yeah, on the transfer of other funds, that 220 should actually be $400,000. We have an issue with Waldron Road, where we are. They're showing that they had some overruns on the Waldron Road, approximately $1.6 million, and we had originally put $400,000 in here to pay an installment on that. We have not worked out all the details yet with them because we have found some errors in those figures, but they do require us to pay some type of installment each year until that's paid off. So I'm going to change that back to the $400,000. I think when I was trying to change that to 220, Bruce, earlier, I changed it in the wrong place. Anyway, drug fund. We do transfer approximately $30,000 a year to our drug fund to help assist that fund. And we'll talk about the drug fund tonight also.
705, and then the ultimate total is going to be 17,681.
17,661 is what I've got. That changes that total to 485,000 for transfers.
Oh, you said 480.
485.
85. Okay.
And then we also, with our senior fund this year, the senior, we always transfer money every year to help out with the senior fund. This year we have a unique situation where the seniors have grown so much that there's not enough income coming in to support the seniors. They are funded by the GNRC and a grant from Rutherford County, and then the city contributes. Last year, at the end of the year, we wound up being about $5,000 or $6,000 in the hole with the seniors. So we're trying to make up for that by increasing the transfer to them to $55,000. So in total, we have expenses with that change that I just made of $17,661,000. And if you go back to your first, go back to the revenue page, I think it's the third page, page 3. We talked earlier about we have approximately $17,787,000 in revenues, and we have expenses of $17,661,194. So that leaves us with $126,000 to do other things with. And we have a capital plan that the department heads have provided, and I will pull that up. You have a hard copy of that. Here we go. Now for the fiscal year 15-16, these are the items that department heads have discussed and have decided that their departments need, and we'll go down through those. For the City Hall, we have been asked to look at a new web design. This 50,000 will also be split between several departments. So we may allocate some of that to stormwater and to water sewer fund. HR department has requested some online training tools. They're saying that approximately $10,000 will cover that. IT department has requested a sonic wall at approximately $12,500. The library is requesting a sound system, approximately $2,000 to update or upgrade their sound system. They would like to replace a lot of tables and chairs. They're estimating about $10,000 for that. Carpet replacement. This will not cover the whole library, but it will cover, they can't very well do the whole library all at once. They're, we'll do one section at a time. And they've requested $6,000 for that. They've also requested $5,000 for painting. Codes department has requested another employee for 50, and the wages would be approximately $59,575 with benefits. Streets department has requested a batwing mower, cost of $18,000. A shed to put a lot of their big equipment in, approximately $75,000, and 2 portable signs. And I think they're also looking at maybe purchasing one of those signs in this fiscal year and maybe one in next fiscal year. Police department has requested some staff changes. They would like to see an increase of 6 patrol officers and 1 sergeant. And they've also requested one vehicle with equipment out of the general fund, and then one, I think, out of the police impact fund. We've kind of tossing that around. The fire department is requesting a vehicle, approximately $50,000. Parks and Rec has requested 2 trucks at a cost of about $54,000. That's around $27,000 each. They've also requested a new mower, a Hustler mower, for approximately $10,000, and they've also requested $5,000 to upgrade and update some fencing. And the total requested amount for all these capital and other operating type expenses that are not in their current budget is approximately $923,138. And generally what we do at this time is, you allow the board to have conversations as to which items that they feel are necessary. Of course, everything is necessary, but we can't, you see what we have to work with, and we don't have $923,000 to work with.
Any of the board have any questions for Phyllis?
Do y'all want some time to talk and just, I don't know, other than right now, you really don't have time to discuss these items, so feel free to.
On the nonprofits, we kind of went bare bone. Like Smyrna, they done away with all the nonprofits and done them on fundraisers. The senior citizens, was you planning on one golf tournament for the seniors?
Well, we're still pushing for that. The last one, we didn't have enough time to get it in, but we got a couple things in the works. I know Kim Tomlin had expressed to us that he was going to make a donation, and I'm thinking that's probably going to be around $3,000 from what he said. And then, we do have a couple of ball tournaments that were lined up for being fundraisers for the seniors as well. We figured today, wasn't it, about 5,000? Phyllis, if we could come up with that, we'd probably be close to breaking even.
I think the 8,000 is our magic number. We need.
Yeah, but that's,
Yeah,
we'd be
5,000,
counting on that
not
3,000
counting, yeah.
too, so.
What kind of revenues are you seeing from the lunches? What kind of revenues are you seeing from the
Well, it
windshields?
depends. It goes, y'all helped out a lot, stations helped out a lot, but it's usually around anywhere from between 150. I think the best we've ever done was 320, and that was a really big one, so somewhere in there. And a lot of the foods that we're using are donated as well, so
Nice.
it's not really money coming out, but we do have a lot of people that donate a lot of foods. Unfortunately, sometimes it's just the same stuff over and over and over, and seniors get tired of eating meatballs, and you know, they give you a hard time after a while, but you know, still, it's still good, but.
Yeah. We can definitely do some more to help
Yeah.
spread the word on that.
If we can get that golf tournament, that would be great, because we did one once before.
Y'all made about, what, 3,000 on that or more,
We
wasn't
did
it?
really good
It
on
was
that.
good.
Yeah. Yeah, we're still pushing.
And if that rolled out, you could have one early in the year, and then you could maybe have one later in the year in the fall, you know, if needed to,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, I went over and spoke with Hal. Me and Bobby both sat down and talked with him, and he's very supportive, and he wants to do all he can do to help us. It's just a matter of getting everything lined up with all the ball tournaments and events we have in the park too, so. But we'll get it.
I think I've talked to you and Ricky about maybe doing some vehicle swap, you know, that might give the fire department a vehicle, and then, that'll help a little bit. You know. I think the biggest department is chief, is the police department. 6 men, 1 sergeant, and 1 car.
Well, not 6 men, 6 men and women, hopefully. Patrol officers, people who are out there working on the shifts in the zones, because like today, we had everybody we had available today. We had a lieutenant and 4 officers out there, patrol officers on the zones, and we had several things hit at one time, and I was actually primary officer on a call over here on 73rd.
Yeah. You got four that's already paid for, is not hired.
Pardon me?
You got four that's
Your vacancies.
the vacancies.
Yeah, we're working on filling
And that's
those.
patrolman, that's patrolman.
Well, yeah, it may not be 4, because we've got one that left 2 weeks ago. He's done 2 weeks FTO training at Mount Juliet and has asked to come home. And I've recommended strongly that we bring him back. He's a good kid.
On the average, how many is you usually have on vacancies? Does it stay, you know, when you hire one and maybe lose one, or hire 2 and lose one?
Well, we've lost 2 in the last month. One went to Rutherford County, and the first day he sent me a text. He said, "I miss home."
On
I
January,
think
do you
he's had
usually
some.
have at least 4 or 5?
No.
Usually have a full,
Not necessarily.
you
It
usually have a full
depends.
slate?
Pardon me?
You'll have a full slate. You don't have any that's hirees?
Are you fully
You got
staffed?
4 now that's waiting to be hired. Is that usually the?
We put the announcement out. We have 223 applications for 4 positions. And it's a lengthy process to go through. It's not just go out, find somebody and hire them. Because we
Takes a
have to
while,
go
yeah.
through the knowledge testing, we have to go through the agility and physical assessment, we have to go through an extensive background. We do the interview up front, an extensive background investigation, and then a physical and drug testing, et cetera, et cetera. So we're looking at a few months. I've got a stack of those 223 applications now I'm trying to go through that we got printed today. And it's probably going to take, with everything else going on, probably going to take 2 weeks or better for me to look through them to see what we have, just to begin and invite them to come. Now, some of those folks automatically ain't going to come
Yeah.
because they're from New York, Missouri, Ohio, Indiana, et cetera. Georgia and Florida are 2 more than I can think of right off the top of my head. But by the time we get them here, we get a lot of kids that get a degree and say, "I want to be a law enforcement officer." They don't have a clue what they're doing. So we go through the process with them. We may get them halfway through the process before they realize this ain't what I want to do.
Yeah.
Chief, how many active patrol officers do we have?
How many?
How many active patrol officers right now?
We have 28 patrol officer positions right now. We have 4 vacant.
And I guess the fair question is how many police officers, detectives, so on do we have? They can hit the streets if needed.
We have 52 total sworn members from me down.
And if I'm not mistaken, national averages are about 83 to 100 if we would, for our per capita, per thousand.
If it was looked at per 1,000 population, we should average out, the state of Tennessee averages a little over 2.1. We're at 1.49. And this is an issue that's been here for a number of years. And as long as the population continues increasing, we've been told that the development should start really rolling now because of recent changes in ordinances. If that's the case, more people are going to be moving, more traffic on the roads, more wrecks, more calls for service. If we get to that point, then the problem is if we don't begin doing something now, we're going to be way behind the 8 ball.
So just based on the 2.1 that's Tennessee averages, that would put us somewhere around 71, 72, and we're at 53. So we're way behind is what you're saying.
Way behind.
And you've been asking for this since?
Well, let me tell you when it first started. It first started in, for the 2011-12 budget. I've got a copy of it if anybody wants to see what former Chief Ted Boyd had requested at that time with personnel and vehicles. As of right now, we would have had an additional 8, 13, 17. Right now, we would have had 17 more people than we had for the 10-11 year. Now, here's the kicker. We got 4 and we've gotten 1 since. That's 5. So that's 12. We're already 12 behind what former Chief Boyd said we needed by this time 5 years ago. And I'm not crying wolf. It's just that, as you all know, you all get the complaints about not seeing people in zones. I get them every day. You all are bound to get them. And you know many people who complain about not seeing. We get people who want us to do more traffic patrol in their area. The problem is you've got 4 zones for 25 square miles. We have a total of 177 plus, right, streets and highways in the city. There's no way with 4 people you can cover 177 plus miles of streets and highways in a shift. So at some point in time, we're going to have to move forward. I'm not saying we have to do it now, but at some point in time, we've got to do it. I've been saying that since I got here, but it was said before I got here. So that tells you something.
You know, Chief, I went on a ride-along just one Friday night, and it was in the middle of winter, and winter's not as busy for y'all, I understand, as the summer is. And I can tell you that from my own experience on that one night, every officer was already busy working, and there was another accident coming in. So I know that you're telling the truth.
Yes,
I mean,
ma'am.
I absolutely know, because I was there, I saw it.
And to be honest with you, with our calls for service over the past 6 months, we looked at them by time of day, day of week, et cetera. And our PM and PM and midnight shift had 2 months, the last 2, February and March, that just did this for whatever reason. The nuts are coming out of the woodwork, to be honest with you. We've had everything in the world wild going on for the past couple of months, and it's not slowed down yet, and we got a long summer ahead of us to go too.
Chief, if I could get a distinction, if you get a new recruit that's fresh out of the academy, does the city send them to the academy first of all?
We don't require post-certification for this reason. We cut our nose off to spite our face. Many times we get officers who have left not necessarily willingly from another agency applying who may be post-certified, which means If they left there for a cause, then we don't need to hire them. All we're doing is getting other people's problems. In many instances, we have to really dig through if they're post-certified. If they are not post-certified and we accept them, then we send them to the academy. That's $2,500 for 10 weeks. You've got the time that you hire them, you get them here, then you got to wait to get them in an academy class, which is 10 weeks, because you can't just automatically send them next week. If they just started one, you've got at least 10 or 11 more weeks for them to get through and then start another one, but generally you've got to skip that one because you didn't have your name in the hat to begin with, so you get on a waiting list. Once they get their 10 weeks, once they get back to us, then we're looking at a minimum of 12 weeks of our field training officer program. Sometimes more, sometimes 12. With prior sworn, post-certified officers coming in, they have a lot less to learn. They have to learn our system and how we do things here, our prosecution system in Rutherford County, what's required, et cetera. But on the other hand, they still have to have about 7 or 8 weeks out there on the road to get a feel for where everything is, the streets. Both of you have ridden, I know that, and I say that because you've asked the questions. Tom's been out there and ridden around. Tom asked the question. There are a lot of places that unless you are actually out there, you didn't realize was here. You don't realize how far it is from Ben Hill in McFarland Point to Jones Mill at Youth Incorporated. That's a long drive. And if you've got an officer in trouble, you've got only 3 on because you've got an officer either on leave or out on sick leave or out on family medical because a new baby is here, et cetera, those kinds of things. Then you've got 3 people out there that are working, and it takes a long time to get to them if they're in a knockdown, drag-out domestic violence situation. So it's cumbersome to work through the process to find the good folks. It takes a lot of time and a lot of looking at them.
So that was 28 weeks, if everything was ideal.
By the time we go through the announcing, and it's open for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it closes, and then we print all those 223 applications, go through them, and we go through the process with the interviewing, et cetera, et cetera. They go through the academy, go through FTO. You're looking at about 9 months before you have somebody that you can latch on to. And the concern I've got is we all know what's coming. And as far as I know, it's still coming. If that's the case, it's going to take almost every one of these new folks just to staff that area. And some of you live close to that area, and you're going to be battling the big business and the issues that come with it, with outsiders coming to steal, et cetera, break in vehicles and so on, when you may need help. And if that new officer is there and tied up, then we got to bring one from across another area to get to you.
Push comes to shove, can we, let's say there is a major domestic incident, where's the sheriff's department when you need assistance?
Well, the sheriff's department will come assist us if we ask for it. The problem with the sheriff's department is Sheriff Arnold's also asking for
I understand
a pretty
that.
sizable number of people.
I understand that part.
Because of their staffing, and to get them here, if they're in Christiana on a domestic, then that becomes an issue.
Yeah, the reason I ask that is because I very seldom ever see a sheriff's car. I mean, I see him when he leaves his house, but I don't see him actually on patrol.
Right.
When I was on patrol, I used to see, I mean, we could, the sheriff's department was there.
Right.
And I was just wondering if we had that access, but I understand that he's.
Yes, they will. They do come help us frequently, and we ask them for help.
How many, do you know, I've only seen one trooper. Do we have any more troopers living in the area?
Rutherford, not that I'm aware of, only the one now. The problem in Rutherford County, it's been there, it's been a historical problem. They have fewer now than they did when some old guy was over there, because he kind of staffed up Rutherford because of the number of calls for service that they have. Rutherford County actually needs about 19 troopers assigned to the county. And I think they're somewhere around 8 now, maybe 9 with this new group, and they're hiring another group, but the problem is, once they hire another group, if they have 4 set up to come here, then you've got 2 or 3 that are gonna transfer or be promoted down the road, et cetera, so they're not building back up.
Yeah.
And many times we have to help THP with issues out there on the interstate. We don't normally go work the interstate, but we do respond to crashes. And there are times, if it's not a serious bodily injury crash, they'll ask us, can you go ahead and handle it? Our closest trooper is having to come out of Williamson County near Franklin.
Yeah.
And those are some of the issues we
I was just trying to get a picture of the out of departmental assistance. And
They
that's-
assist us very well.
Yeah, okay.
Smyrna normally doesn't. Smyrna doesn't even respond to the interstate.
A new recruit come in with no, education or nothing on the police. Have you thought about maybe if you go through the trouble of doing it, getting them to sign like a 3-year, agreement?
I have, and I talked to Evan about that a couple of years ago, and that's one thing that we never actually got an answer on. The legal community is kind of divided on whether you can prorate that cost, and yes, sir, I asked for it when I got here. That's something that we'll need to bring up if you want to with Evan again, but we can get him to take a look at it because we certainly need to. We haven't had a mass exodus in the past 3 years. We haven't had people who wanted to come and then bail out and go somewhere else. Very few. The only ones we had were in 11, 12, and early part of 12, 13, because at that time, that's when we were absolutely low man on total pole as far as compensation. That has been improved so that we are competitive. We're not equal with other agencies. We are competitive, though. And we had 2 young men that walked out. One went to Wilson County, one went to Lebanon. They both walked out of here and walked in over there. The lowest was right at $4 an hour. So if you live in Lebanon and you're working here and you can go there for right at $4 an hour, that puts a lot more beans and taters on the table, which is important to these kids who have families, and you can't blame them. But we haven't had that issue in the past couple of years, 2.5 years.
I know of a situation where an employer would ask that you pay for your own school, and then they would reimburse you the monthly payment amount on that student loan. And if you end your employment, then the balance of that student loan would then be your personal responsibility. That might be another way we could kind of get around this situation if it is an issue.
That's true. One of the things we do, though, we were supposed to have our 2 folks start in May, the last week in May. If they had been trying to get in the academy themselves, it might have taken 6 months because they're put on the back burner to try to go themselves, pay their own way. We have officers here who have paid their own way, who came and worked as reserve officers, wanted to be a law enforcement officer, and we got some really good folks who started as reserve officers. Matt Fracker and Scott Hudgens are 2 that paid their own way through the academy. And they never were reimbursed. It's unusual to find people who are willing to do that because they don't have the dollars up front. Now, one of the things we do like is Middle Tennessee State particularly has begun allowing them to do that and go ahead as a part of their undergrad program and get the credit for it up front, and they help them. And Toledo is also accepting more of those folks. However, it takes that additional time to get in. So that's the one thing that the advantage they have is if we hire them. I think a good idea would be is they could reimburse the city there. The only problem we got to have it in that general fund line item and once they reimburse, it doesn't, you show the expenditure in that line item, and it's shown over here on another page, revenue, and you think, oh, we're spending this much for here, we're not getting it back, when that's not the case. It's kind of like grants in some instances. It's budgeted here in the general fund, and then you get a grant reimbursement for it. However, it still shows you expended this, but you have to go somewhere else to look to see, did we get that money back?
Right.
What other advertising, does the police, well, I know y'all do your advertisement, but do y'all advertise anything as far as incentives?
As far as what?
Incentives to oncoming patrolmen?
The only incentives that we have that we do advertise are benefits that are available. We are very competitive in Laverne, to be honest with you, with benefits. There are many agencies that don't have the benefits our employees have, and that's one reason people look toward us. We have a gentleman who turned down, he's in the academy now, he turned down Louisville Police Department, Louisville, Kentucky. He interviewed with them. He'd already interviewed with us and gone through the physical agility assessment, et cetera, and he chose us over them. And he lived in Clarksville, so it was, he's got to move this way, or he would have had to move that direction. He has a little over 20 years of military service. He had 3 years Navy. He was out a year, and then he went in the Army. He's actually a Navy-trained diver in the Army. He's a diving soldier, is one of the many things he did with the 5th group. And he can't tell us a whole lot because he'd have to kill us if he did, but the Special Forces, for those of you who don't realize who.
When I was at my last meeting with the Planning Commission, we had a presentation by a gentleman that he said, and I've been meaning to bring the paperwork in, but he was talking about incentives. But at this point, they're only offered to businesses. And my question to him was, is there any way that we could broaden that to give it to, you know how Metro does?
Yes.
The officers will stay at apartments rent-free, you know.
We allow them to do that here. We don't have the number of complexes here. We have a couple of young men who are doing that now.
Okay.
I didn't wear my jacket.
I mean, I think that's just something
And
that
we
we're just
allow
going to
them
have
to
to
work
start
secondary
talking.
employment as long as it doesn't conflict, become an interference with what they do here, or it's not a conflict of interest in what they're doing. For example, they couldn't work in a convenience store and sell alcoholic beverages.
True.
The people walking out the door are gonna get in the car and drink them and drive. That's a no-no. There are many things they can't do, but there are many that they do. We have them doing several different things, working. They can't use any departmental issued equipment unless it's a departmental additional extra employment, and Phyllis has worked on several of those with us, help us get that worked out so that we have people who go to various warehouse areas. We have been several places where a former employee was a major threat, and we had officers working there. If it's in the city, they can use the uniform, the vehicle, and it's time and a half through the city. So they're covered because they're here. If they're not here, they can't use anything we issue because their commission, their police commission here in Laverne does not cover them working a security job in Smyrna, for example. But they work there. We also have folks that work a tremendous amount of overtime with our Governor's Highway Safety Office alcohol saturation patrol grants. So we have those kinds of incentives. Other than that, no, we don't give them any credit. We allow them to, we require them within 6 months to move within a 25-mile most direct route location.
I mean, I just think that's something that needs to be, and I'm not saying from your end,
Right.
It's just something that maybe this board could probably lobby with Chamber of Commerce or whatever, and just let it be known that these are options that that can be offered.
Now, I don't know what kind of incentives the city could give them, but
No, I mean, I'm just saying, I'm talking about the business people
Right.
on that end, and just tell them, offer them something. just to get them here to see if they, you know, so we can start over. Because I know that's one of the main things that motivated a lot of my friends, and myself included, was, you know, in Nashville the way they did that until they got too competitive with Metro, and
Right.
we had to bump out. But that's all I've got, Mayor.
Anybody else have anything?
Well, I think we have somewhat of a dilemma. We've got almost $1 million in requests and things that we know. I think the directors have been very, they've done their best to put, in fact, a lot of departments cut any request out this year and cut their budgets. So I think we're going to have to decide where we're going to go. I just have a question. I mean, look, I'm all about lowering taxes for the people. It's a good idea if you can do it. I don't know if it jeopardizes things to do that, though. I'm just wondering how we got to a 2.5 cent deduction, which all that ultimately equates back to the city is about a $200,000 savings. What that equates to a resident that owns a $120,000 home is about $1 a month. I know I pay $1 a month to make sure resources are here for the city. So that's just kind of my thoughts. Where are we going to go with this? There's so many requests, but you know, Dennis, Mayor, you and I spoke 2 years ago. There's been a lot of stuff that's been, we use the term kick the can down the road. You know, we had to continue to kick the can down the road. We know these are needs. We know we have a need here at PD. And we got them just about in every department. So what do we do here? Those are just, that's the dilemma that I have, and what do we prioritize at this point?
Well, you know, budget, we just have to work through it and do the best we can. And, you know, 6 men, we own the police department, 6 men, 1 sergeant, 1 car, and 1 out of bond. You know, that's not a unnecessary need. You know, that's very possible. It's just, you know, this year here is going to be a tight year for the department. Next year, when the revenue starts coming in, you know, stuff, you know, everybody knew this year was going to be tight. Going to be tight.
And one of the things that's really hurting us this year is that TDOT payment of $400,000. You know, that's certainly money that we could have used a lot of other places.
And we, you know, what kind of, you know, we get that behind us, and you know, the trouble is, you know, our revenue just ain't coming in. You know, for the past 4 years, we've been spending and spending, but our revenue's been going down. You know, and hopefully, with some of the stuff that's on the borderline, you know, it will change. You know, our revenue start coming in. But
You know, obviously it's been something you and I haven't agreed upon. It's had the last 4 years, the spending and spending, but some of the reason we had to spend and spend, because for many years prior to 2010, things were kicked down the road. We don't want to get back to that situation again.
And that's what I told Phyllis. I said, you know, I definitely don't want to get too far from the 8 ball, but you know, a 2.5% tax reduction is very little. You know, and that's something that can be worked. It's workable. And you know, my idea is my goal is to try to do that every year for at least this year and next year, and you know, to see how the budget goes. But the main thing when you focus on it, we need to do what we can to get the revenue up. Because you know, we just can't keep on funding this city through the backs of the taxpayers. We got to generate more revenue. You know.
I pay more in water and sewer than I do in taxes
Yeah.
every month.
I know it. I get calls every day. I get people sometimes lying down the hall. I mean, they're upset about the water bills.
But on the other hand, I had an option to come here and the opportunity, and when I got here, I saw the reason we had to spend so much because of what hadn't been done the right way for many years before. And when I came, I got to look at numbers, and if you all will go back and look, there was over $14 million in reserve about 8 years ago, and what happened was the city was running in the red, and so was water sewer, and that money that was there available for these kinds of improvements was used to offset that.
A lot of
So
times
it's
what
real
happens-
easy to go back and look
when the-
at and make the determination that the poor management 8 years ago has really kicked their backsides now. I'm a taxpayer, I can say that.
When the $14 million was built up, that's when the city was booming, and then we hit on a recession. It come on about the time I got on board, the recession started, and from '04 to '08, I mean, we was scuffling.
Yeah, the reserves depleted very quick, fast and in a hurry, up to a little
was
over
tough.
$1 million, maybe $1.6 million. Phyllis, I don't know, you might be able to help me out there.
You know, you say working on the revenues as well, and we have been, and we're seeing some results. And I think each year we're going to sit up here, whoever sits up here is going to see the results of what we've done the last 4 years, what we're doing right now. You have two major developments coming in. One, I would say 99.9%, if not 100%. The other one is pretty darn close too. You know, those are insurance policies and do take the burden off of the resident. But I think the key thing, what any three of us have said right now is I understand, let's manage our money, let's do it right. But that doesn't mean just stop and don't grow and don't move forward either.
They go backward.
And that's just the dilemma. You say, okay, we're going to do it again next year. Again, guys, I don't have a problem with going down 2.5 cents, 5 cents, whatever it is. If we can do it, and as we're growing, not leave the next board or not leave the residents in the same problem that we were in the last board. And again, we can differ on opinions and how we needed to get there, but there was a lot of successes, and we don't want to stop that. We don't want to stop just doing draw these retailers and these developers that are looking here, you know. So anyway, again, lately we've been arguing, so I'll just be quiet. But those are my thoughts, quite
Yeah,
honestly.
we definitely, gonna move forward. It's.
Thought you'd say we definitely been arguing.
Well, out of 923,000 that we have in requested expenditures for all the departments, we have $126,000 to spend. So 1 out of 9 things on this list will get done. And that's just the bottom line of it. However, we do have another estimated $400,000 in sales tax revenue coming in next year that we don't have this year. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just not going to happen today. You don't want to spend the money, like if you were going to get a raise in your personal finances, you wouldn't want to spend the money this year. You would want to wait till you got your raise before you spent the money. And that's just simple math.
And again, these are very conservative estimates,
And you're right, every department head really come in conservative.
Yes.
This is a very conservative, one of the very conservative budgets that I've been through 12 of them, and each one of y'all have done a fantastic job. If I had a hat, I'd take it off to you. Everybody worked hard.
Take care of.
Yeah.
My mama would tell you take it out because you're in the building.
There you go. But it's all got to work together, and I've been through 12 budgets, and it's always, each budget time, it's always about $1 million more than last year, and we work on it, and we always get it to work, it's always a way. It looks bad right now, but this is the first budget hitting to the last. It all usually fits together, And I appreciate everybody. I appreciate all of the department heads who have done a fantastic job this year.
They have really had to go through some hard times too.
Mayor, while we've got the chief here, if you don't mind, I'd like to go ahead and do the rest of his departments.
Okay.
He's got 3 additional departments, or 3 additional funds. He's got the drug fund, the grant fund, and the police impact fee that, while we got his attention, we'd like to go ahead and take care of tonight.
Which page is that, Joey?
It'll be in the packet that I gave you for Monday night. It'll be in the first 3.
Oh, the Monday.
Yeah, the first 3 schedules in there. And the first one we'll discuss is the drug fund. Make sure that everybody's on the same page here.
Let me find it. I think mine's got mixed, I think mine's got all mixed up, but
It's in the packet that you will have for Monday night.
Okay.
It's gonna be, it was binder clipped
the
together.
pages were marked.
It may be in your stack in front of you, Dennis.
Okay, it's in this, okay, I got you right here.
You said police impact?
We're gonna do drug fund first.
I got the
It
impact.
says 123 drug fund right up underneath the City of Laverne. We've got impact, drug fund, and the grant.
Okay, there it is. It should be on the bottom. We can just look at it. Well, shoot, you can go ahead and get started.
Okay. The first one is the drug fund, and the revenues that make up the drug fund are funds that we receive from court fines with the state. We've estimated about $25,000. Court fines from Laura Boland, and then court fines from the state of Tennessee of approximately $2,000. Impound fees of $5,000. Department of Justice, approximately $35,000. Forfeits, approximately $10,000. Approximately $50 in interest earnings. And of course, we received $30,000 from the general fund. And then with this year's budget, we're going to be taking about $54,000 out of the fund balance or the surplus from previous years. If you'll flip over to the expense side, the chief has requested $12,500 for education and training, $1,250 for membership and registration fees, $2,500 for repair and maintenance service, $5,000 for repair and maintenance vehicle, $5,000 for repair and maintenance building, $5,000 for towing contractual services, $5,000 for travel, $30,000 for small items of equipment, $5,000 for operating supplies, $2,500 for clothing and uniforms, $30,000 for firearms, bank service charges of $750, $7,000 for donations to organizations, $30,000 for undercover operations, $7,500 for a DARE program, approximately $12,500 for computer equipment, and $5,000 for a K-9 program.
Phyllis, there's one correction there, if I may. Line item 266, repair and maintenance building, there's not 5,000 there. It's actually just below that with the towing. The contractual services, that's where we have to utilize a record to tow a seized vehicle here and then pay the record service tow bill, which is reimbursed to us if the person gets their vehicle back, plus storage, or when we sell the vehicle, it offsets it. But that's actually for paying the wrecker to tow the vehicle to us initially.
What was the correction?
You had said it was repair and maintenance
Oh.
building, and there's not.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
There's nothing
Okay.
there for the buildings.
Okay, it was repair and maintenance vehicle for,
And we're restricted on what we can use drug fund dollars for, whether it's federal asset forfeiture or coming in from other areas under state law. It has to be related in some form or fashion, like it can be anything that is utilized for drug enforcement or equipment like SWAT equipment. We can utilize it. We can utilize purchasing handguns, et cetera, things of that nature for officers. The training is for officer safety, et cetera, management training, et cetera, for officers, and then other things are pretty well specific when it comes down to trying to get into the meat of things.
Okay, for your repair maintenance vehicles,
That is to repair, money to repair vehicles that have been seized. What we got
okay,
into
so we're
when
not
I
talking about
first got
squad
here,
cars.
when I first got here, we had a lot of vehicles that had been here for several years. And we've been able to weed through those, and with the help of my old agency, identifying numbers and assigning numbers and things of that nature, we've been able to get rid of those on a pretty good basis and pretty consistently as we go. But there are sometimes repairs that need to be made because a vehicle may have had damage to begin with, like a broken window, where you had some damage to the inside. Once we get it, we're responsible for the care of that vehicle. The other problem is we don't have storage that's fenced and secure, and that becomes another issue that we've had to work with other dollars to try to provide some secure storage area.
Okay, these are seized vehicles. These are
Yes, sir.
not
No,
squad
sir.
cars.
These are seized vehicles.
Okay.
The only thing that we could use that for is if it's one of the seized vehicles that we have used for some of
Undercover.
our folks, well, not just undercover, but some of our folks to operate for police business.
Okay.
Now, what about the 312, small items and equipment?
Yes.
It jumped from 10,000 to 30,000.
That's so that we can cover certain items like tasers. We were able to get a grant last year to get 14 tasers, but we have more than 14 people working on patrol, and the old tasers need to go away totally with the new tasers being here. Things of that nature that we have to have that we can purchase out of the drug fund. The citizens, that's not money from citizens, that's money from dope dealers and users and holders, et cetera. That's not from Mike and Dennis and Tom and Melissa and
On
Sherry and Calvin.
again, on the 327 line item, firearm supplies.
Yes.
It also jumped from 15 to
It
30,000.
did, because we have a strong need for new patrol rifles. We don't have a patrol shotgun in every vehicle. We've only got about a third of them because we've been trying to bits and pieces and go from there with it. Plus, it also buys our ammunition that we have to have to qualify on a regular basis and to having our weapons on a regular basis. And the cost of ammunition has increased tremendously, and it's extremely hard to get, so we have to buy all we can when we can. And that's the reason that line item increased. And once again, that's dope dealer money, not Joe and Jane money.
I just was curious about the big jump.
That's the reason, so that we can try to, instead of increasing the general fund budget to get some of this equipment, that's the reason I asked Phyllis to bump these up this year, and let's use the drug fund to do that.
Are you required to, you don't have to do bids on that, do you, as far as your ammunition, weapons and things?
Yes,
Is there a-
sir.
is there a
It
supplier?
falls under the same purchasing guidelines.
Even with
as-
the drug money?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It falls under the same guidelines unless there is a GSA or a statewide contract. If it's a state departmental contract, we can't purchase from it, only from a statewide contract.
Okay.
If it says SWC on it on State Department of General Service, or if it's GSA, right?
Ammunition has gone way up.
Yes, it has. And it's even more important now that we do that. We've also purchased some force-on-force, what I like to call blue guns, which are weapons that are basically airsoft for training purposes. And there's a strong need for that, to be honest with you, in today's world. We have to do a whole lot more. Old guys have to do a whole lot more now than they ever have, just to stay. Young guys too.
Any more questions about the drug fund? If not, we'll move on to the grant fund. This is pretty cut and dry. We don't know of any anticipated grants at this time. We generally do pick up 1 or 2 during the year. It's, right now, we don't have any kind of estimates as to what we might qualify for. Therefore, we haven't budgeted for any, we haven't expensed any.
And part of the problem we have with that is our Governor's Highway Safety Office grant is not included there. It's on October 1 through September 30. And this year, we have asked for
About 54.
59,000, 58?
54, 59, somewhere in there.
Yeah, 58, I think, or 59. We've asked for this year.
And that
For
one,
our
overtime.
overtime.
And that one will actually hit general fund because that's where we pay the overtime out of.
Right,
So we-
exactly.
sometimes-
Unless we add equipment, and we may have that in addition, where we purchased, new ANSI Class 3, vests for everybody. So that if they work Sobriety Checkpoint, they're out working a crash, they're out doing this on the road, whatever, we have to have it. That's an OSHA requirement, OSHA and TOSHA, to keep those officers safe with enough retro-reflective material on it to make it a Class 3 ANSI standard. We come up sometimes too with some state Office of Criminal Justice programs with dollars that will come up that we can attach to, but unless we know it up front, we don't really do that. It always falls in, and Phyllis has to plug it in another hole, to be honest with you.
We generally do a budget amendment when we have those come up so that we can count for those. If we don't have any, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't know if I asked you this, I don't know if I asked you before, do you have a person that's dedicated to look for grants like the fire department?
The city has a person dedicated looking for grants, and we have about 4 people who on a regular basis are out there looking for
Yeah,
grants.
that's what I'm talking about.
Sergeant Bob Hayes is our primary and handles the management of our grants. He's the records sergeant and handles multiple tasks. But Bob handles that. He's handled our TASER grant. We had a TML grant that we purchased training aids with last year. And then we had to try to look and find, where did that go?
Okay,
But
yeah,
some-
that's what I'm talking about, because sometimes your general grant person, there might be something in there that they might get by, and I was just wondering if you had anyone internal.
Over across the back parking lot, we have multiple people doing multiple things.
Okay. A lot of times in grants, most of them's 50-50 grants, and a lot of them got strings attached. I think when I first got on, might have been a little bit before, but the police had a grant for two officers. They'd pay for 2 officers for 1 year.
That was a COPS program.
Yeah. And then after that 1 year, the city took the whole thing over, but you couldn't get rid of, you were stuck with them the 2 positions. You know.
All of these we've been getting are 100% grants,
Yeah.
with the exception of our Bureau of Justice Assistance VEST grant, where they reimburse us for 1/2 the cost of the
But it's
vest.
plenty of grants out there, it's a 50-50 grant, but it's got a lot of strings attached to it.
But you gotta have the 50% to
Yeah.
go with it.
Yeah.
And you can't use drug fund money to pay the other 50% or other dollars to pay that. That's a no-no.
Yeah.
If we don't have any further questions about the grant fund, we'll move on to the police impact fund. This one's a very small fund also. The revenues are generated from impact fees, police impact fees, and then we're anticipating about 15,000 for next year. And then we have a little bit of interest income. There was been no items budgeted for in this department, except for we did put 1 police vehicle in here, and that's contingent on us actually hiring at least 1 officer. We can't purchase a vehicle unless we do hire a completely new officer. So if that doesn't occur, then we won't utilize that line item for this budget.
But we can come back to you if we have a strong need, like if a major HVAC unit goes out at the police department, we could come back and say, we want you to amend the budget to do this. We can do those kinds of things. We're very restricted on the police impact fee. And the impact fee for law enforcement is the lowest impact fee of any that's out there in the city. The others are higher.
And like to amend the budget, we just about do that on a monthly basis. We have to, amend something, but
We have to be careful. We can't amend it too many times or the auditors be asking Phyllis
Well,
nasty
no,
questions.
actually, we're supposed to amend it anytime your line item goes over.
Right, right.
Our auditors especially look at the department in total.
Yeah.
If we go over in total, it's a definite no-no if you haven't done a budget amendment. But, according to the rules and guidelines, anytime any line item goes over, we're supposed to do a budget amendment, even if we're using one line item to cover another line item. So we can do as many budget amendments as we want. They're just not fun to do.
no.
With that, that concludes tonight's budget workshop. We've covered quite a bit. When we come back next week, we'll be doing the State Street Aid, we'll be doing seniors, we'll be doing stormwater, we will do capital project streets, capital project parks, and then the water sewer fund. We got the biggest part away out of our, done tonight. The general fund is the largest fund, and it is the most revenue or funds limited fund that we have. So we've got a lot done.
I appreciate all the department heads coming. I think everybody worked hard, done a good job, and my intention was every department's going to get something, 3% raise, and every year I've been elected here, the wants has always been about $1 million more than the needs, and we all work together, and we always make it fit to get it going, and I'm sure we do it this year. But I appreciate everybody's help. Anybody else have anything? We'll call this budget over.